Now at 10, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Patients are prescribed certain medications in certain intervals and certain doses because that's what's safe. And when that doesn't happen and we become aware of that, that is something that could cause immediate harm to a patient.
Failing to administer medication as ordered by a physician, failing to meet the adequate number of licensed registered nurses and other members of the nursing staff. These are just two items the Connecticut Department of Public Health identified at St. Francis Hospital in this document, and the reason the hospital was placed under a consent order back in 2024. Thank you so much for joining us on Fox 61 News at 10. I'm Annette Montgomery. Now, that consent order was recently modified after additional violations were discovered. And new at 10, I spoke with the commissioner of the State Department of Public Health about why that order was modified. And now we're hearing what the hospital is now saying in response.
I think you're going the other way. No, not.
We had identified several violations that had occurred. And in September of 2024, so this was going back a year ago, we had entered into a consent order with St. Francis Hospital.
This consent order dated September 11, 2024, lays out the agreement between St. Francis Hospital and the Department of Public Health after a series of violations were identified by health officials.
We had identified errors in medication administration, sanitation, safety of patients.
According to the Department of Public Health, for the emergency department to be optimally staffed, they are required to have 17 registered and licensed practical nurses between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., 18 between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., 22 between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m., 17 between 11 a.m. and 3 a.m., and 15 from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. Health officials made unannounced visits to the hospital between November 2023 and March of 2024. The Department of Public Health says they identified 7 registered and licensed practical nurses from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., 8 from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and 7 from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The document goes on to say a review found nursing staff fell below the required staffing grid 83% of the days reviewed.
What I want to make clear is that part of our function as the Department of Public Health in Connecticut is to ensure safety in facilities. And so what has come to light in this particular instance is when something is egregious and we are doing the things so that people can feel confident going to a given healthcare institution.
Trinity Health of New England oversees St. Francis Hospital. In a statement to Fox 61, Julie Williams, the Regional Director of Marketing and Communications, says in part, "At St. Francis, patient safety is more than a priority. It's a core value that guides everything we do. At the heart of our safety culture is continuous education, rigorous training, and the recognition of our colleagues who exemplify our safety values in action. This safety culture is built upon proactive colleague engagement, open communication, and leadership rounding, ensuring that the voice of both patients and colleagues remain at the forefront." The original consent order from September of 2024 was dated for 2 years, which means the Department of Public Health would be monitoring them over that period of time. But additional incidents observed so far has led to the Department of Public Health identifying an expert consultant would need to be physically on site for 40 hours a week for an additional 6 months.
The original consent order that was issued back in 2024 allowed us the ability to be there for 2 years and to be monitoring them over this period of time. It's this additional 6 months of this expert consultant, which will now be there into the coming new year in 2026, which was necessitated by additional incidents that we had identified during this time period. They've been under a consent order.
And when I raised the question to Dr. Jutani regarding how common consent orders are, she said she would not call it a common occurrence, but when there is something significant that has been identified and a repeated pattern of behavior, that's when one is put in place. Now, the statement from Trinity Health also says their commitment to transparency remains steadfast. We'll have their full statement on fox61.com. Well, the victim of a deadly shooting we brought to you as breaking news last night has now been identified by Hartford police. Just before 7 p.m. Friday night, officers responded to Broadview Avenue and found 38-year-old Miguel Alfinez with multiple gunshot wounds. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and later pronounced dead. Investigators say this appears to be a targeted dispute between two individuals, and they believe they have strong leads. But if you have any information, please contact police. As soon as we learn any more information, we'll update you on air and on fox61.com. Well, a driver is behind bars tonight in connection with a hit and run that left a bicyclist seriously injured in Madison. Jacqueline Latsowski of New Haven is now facing charges for the crash. It happened around noon today at the intersection of Kimberly Lane and Horse Pond Road. Officials tracked her by using a license plate reader. Tonight, she faces charges of evading responsibility and assault with a motor vehicle. She is being held on a $200,000 bond. And also developing now, a New Britain man has now been arrested in connection with a deadly shooting last month. Police say 27-year-old Joel Sanchez was taken into custody Friday on Broad Street in Meriden. Tonight, Sanchez faces multiple charges, including murder, criminal possession of a firearm, and unlawful discharge of a firearm. Right now, Sanchez is being held on a $3 million bond. And also developing, New Canaan police is investigating an untimely death at an apartment complex. They responded to Lakeview Avenue early this morning. Right now, there is no public safety concerns at this time, but the police department is investigating the incident with state police. New tonight, a state audit has revealed alarming safety and oversight failures at several private special education programs in Connecticut. Fox 61's Stefan Reels has looked over that audit and joins us now live in studio. Now, Stefan, what did you find?
Hey, Annette, the audit looked at 4 private schools from around the state for the 2022-23 school year. And in the end, it revealed several issues, which included failure to follow certain laws, regulations, and policies. The private schools in question were Attlebrook Academy in Cromwell, the American School for the Deaf, Grace S. Webb School, and High Road School of Wallingford. The audit also investigated the university school, JPE. The report found some schools failed to conduct required criminal background and child abuse checks on staff, including employees with prior criminal records. It also uncovered failures to deliver services outlined in a student's individualized education programs, or IEPs. Officials say these lapses put some of the state's most vulnerable students at serious risk. And right now, advocates are calling for stronger oversight and immediate reforms. The State Department of Education says it is reviewing the findings and considering next steps. And Annette, we've already seen some schools respond to this and acknowledge the issues in the audit. Some said that some changes are already underway, including at Grace S. Webb. Leaders say that they have set up a new process to prevent further background check problems. And the American School for the Deaf also said a new process was set up in the 2023-24 school year to help with issues around students' IEPs. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Well, a new statewide survey reveals that many Connecticut families are struggling to meet basic needs due to rising utility costs and stagnant wages. That survey was conducted by the Connecticut Project CT Data Collaborative and Stanford University's Rapid Survey Project. It found that more than half of families with children under 6 are facing financial hardship, particularly in rural areas. 65% of parents reported difficulties affording essentials like housing, childcare, and utilities. The data highlights the emotional toll it's taking on families, with parents using credit cards, tapping savings, or relying on charity to get by. Experts say the state must prioritize affordability to support families and ensure healthy child development.